This is Inside the Right. So, Tim, we've got big news here. Donald Trump convicted on all 34 felony counts. This is Inside the Right. So, the obvious question here, do you think this will have some massive rally around the flag effect for Trump, or will the net effect of this conviction be negative for him?
Yeah, first I just want to say hell yeah and cheers. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
We get some accountability for this guy. Been fighting this guy for a long time now. So, what is the impact going to be? We will not know for sure until we get more data. But let's just be real here. Being a convicted felon, 34 counts, having to be sentenced 4 days before the Republican convention, this is not good for Donald Trump. This is a big problem for him. It's a problem for him across a couple of vectors. Number one, we've talked about this. The group that is that Joe Biden is struggling with the most right now are people that just aren't paying that close of attention. There are people that if you just that don't get their news from cable or from shows like this or from the newspaper, they're getting just social media inputs. And, is it going to have an impact on those people to hear that Donald Trump has now been unanimously convicted of business fraud, of defrauding the country with lies about his affair? I just, you have to think that it will impact some of them. Will it impact all of them? Are there some people out there that might come to Trump's defense? Sure. This isn't a 100-0 thing, but on balance, I think that if you're just looking at the core groups of people, the people that have, low engagement, this is going to break through. The first time a president's ever been convicted, if they might not know much, the day-to-day of everything that's going on in Gaza or everything that's going on in these trials. They might not know Judge Merchan's name, but they're going to know he was convicted. That's going to matter. And then the other group that we talk about a lot, these softer Republicans, the college-educated Republican types, the Nikki Haley types, they are more engaged, so they're more familiar with the merits of the trial. But there's a certain percentage of them they're conscientious. It's like, you've got a lot of, let's stereotype a little bit. You got a lot of people that, like, show up to their kids' school board meet. You know what I mean? We got a lot of class moms, and a lot of dads who are coaching, or moms who are coaching and dads who are class dads, right? Like that's the type of person that this Nikki, dude, they want a felon to be the president. You hear from them. We hear from them in focus groups. You never know what people are actually going to do until they do it. Now happen. It's like, let's see, right? It's different to say hypothetically, it would change my opinion. But I think if you look at both of those groups on the balance, it's going to hurt Donald Trump with both of them. How much? We'll see. And then strategically speaking, I think it's going to hurt him when you look at the calendar. And I also think it's going to cause him to go insane. And so I think across all three of those points, even more insane than he already was. So across all three of those points, I think it's definitely a huge negative for him politically.
I tend to agree with all of that. And I would say that the one group, obviously, who wouldn't fall into that bucket is the Trump fans. And those are the people, the MAGA acolytes. And those are the people who are going to, rally around his side regardless. And, in the immediate aftermath of this verdict, we saw those people, those very Republican officials, trot themselves out on Twitter, on TV, basically to kiss the ring. Do you think that those people, all of, and it was just about the entirety of the Republican Party, almost like this was the litmus test now, right? During the trial, it was how many of these people can dress like Donald Trump and show up behind him to do his bidding, in an effort to circumvent the gag order on his behalf. Now it's how many of these Republican officials can go on Twitter, go on TV, and basically breathlessly defend the guy. So do you think that they're hanging themselves here by so quickly aligning themselves with a convicted felon ahead of an election where they're going to need moderates to win, and being a convicted felon isn't going to redound to their benefit?
Yeah, some of them are in some of these swing states. And you see a lot of these Republican senators in the swing states are doing worse than Trump, really, because they're getting kind of the worst of both worlds. Some of the Trump voters don't trust him. And then the Democrats and independents look at him and they're like, you seem crazy. Like, you're all the way with Trump,
Right.
So they're kind of in a sour spot. So I do think for certain people, it'll hurt them. I do think, just in the interest of fairness, like, it is going to help Trump raise money. And that's just reality, right? So Trump, there's a huge money gap between Biden and Trump. So Trump will be able to narrow that. That's the one, I hate to even call it a silver lining, but that's the one, positive that Trump will happen. You see these people on Twitter, these conservatives who are like, now I'm going to crawl over glass for Trump. I saw that for 3 people. It's like, sorry, bud, you can crawl over glass if you want, but you still have one vote. One vote is one,
Yeah.
like, you can
And by the way,
there and
anybody Anybody who's claiming that they were going to crawl over glass probably wasn't too on the fence beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, someone holds their nose and votes for Joe Biden and you crawl over glass and use your bloody fingers to vote for Trump, it's still 1-1. It
Right.
doesn't really matter. You don't get points for bonus. But
Right.
one example just to show you just how disastrous this is for Republicans, for the tiny group of Republicans who are responsible in trying to navigate this sorts of thing, and to show how much of a litmus test it is. I don't know if you saw this. Governor Larry Hogan, former governor of Maryland, now running for Senate. He's probably the most moderate of the Republicans out there these days running for Senate. So he put out a responsible, normal statement. Regardless of the result, I urge all Americans to respect the verdict in the legal process, etc. Chris LaSavita, the campaign manager for Trump, tweets that, replies with, "You just ended your campaign." Not only are some of these Republicans, trying to curry favor with him by sucking up to him today, but the Trump campaign is wielding this like a sword. They are making this a litmus test. They're saying you are not welcome here. Remember the old what was the thing that Nikki Haley people put on shirts? Permanently barred.
Yeah.
That's what, like they're out there saying if you just think we should just respect the justice system, then you're barred. You're not welcome here. I think that's really telling about the state of the party. And I think that's going to be damaging both for Trump and for Hogan, right? Like that's bad for both sides, right? Because the Hogan people are like, "Fuck you," you know what I mean? It's a two-way, where they are, they're alienating, the people on each side of that dividing line within the party.
Totally agree. Now, surprisingly, there was, a kind of aligned with the Larry Hogans, but even farther in the other direction, Mo Brooks, a Republican from Alabama, tweeted, "At Real Donald Trump, guilty of 34 felonies per jury of 12 random citizens, none sought job. GOP faces choice. USA future at stake. Keep Trump as nominee and gamble USA's future, or replace Trump with a good character nominee and beat the stew out of Biden." So, first of all, after what feels like a lifetime of people telling Biden to drop out every time he breathes the wrong way, it's kind of like, feels like we're in a parallel universe here to see someone actually call on Donald Trump to drop out. Even though the equivalency here is like Joe Biden misplaces a modifier and they call on him to drop out, and then Donald Trump, it takes 34 felony counts, convicted of 34 felony counts to actually get the first tweet here. But do you think that this kind of thing actually has legs?
Well, I don't know if it has legs in the sense it'll get him to drop out, but I think it's very telling and important because Mo Brooks, first, good on you, Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks was never my cup of tea in the Republican side. He was always a Tea Party, far right Republican. He was MAGA, frankly. And then he and Trump had a falling out over, the post January 6th fallout. Mo Brooks was pretty sympathetic to January 6th, frankly. It was like in the aftermath of it that they had a fallout. But it's interesting because it's like if somebody like Mo Brooks, a far right, fire breathing conservative Republican, can look at this and just with clear eyes say, "Nope, you're a felon. This is how the system works. We should trust the system." Then to me, I think that you can use that as a cudgel to push back against the Marco Rubio, all these, succubuses, these, cowards, right? That know better, that are making these BS arguments. It's like, no, look, Mo Brooks is conservative. He knows that this was legit. And I think that is an important validator, when kind of making arguments about this going forward. And so I'm glad he put that out there.
Now, we've spoken here about the political implications, but what about the moral depravity on display with these Republicans who kind of are beside themselves, sprinting to coddle someone who is now a convicted felon? Like, it seems to me that there's nothing he can't do, really, to lose support from these people. I mean, we've seen that on display before, but now this is another level. I mean, convicted on all 34 counts, to Mo Brooks' point, of a jury of his peers who didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I actually think it's even worse than that, Ryan, as far as the depravity, because not only are they going to his defense, but they are, to a person, undermining the American justice system, turning people against it, trying to convince people that we should tear the whole system down. I mean, it's like Civil War type rhetoric out there from, I've been watching Fox, Newt Gingrich, But sitting members, Greg Abbott, I saw called this a banana republic. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who I've praised a couple times for doing the right thing on Ukraine. Across the board, these Republican politicians out there and the surrogates saying that this is illegitimate, that this is a banana republic. There was a congressman from Georgia, Mike Collins, who is out there saying that Republican DAs and AGs now need to start indicting Democrats. And like, this is very dangerous stuff. It's a powder keg. It is undermining the confidence in our system. And it's also, I just think, really shameful BS. To hear things like I mentioned Newt earlier. I was watching Newt say that this is the most corrupt system that's ever been put in place in in American history. And it's like, have you talked to a black person? Like, do you remember slavery? Like, do you remember Jim Crow South? Right? Like, are you kidding me? Like snowflakes, like get one trial go against you, and now you're trying to tear the whole country down when we had decades upon decades of systematic repression of people based on their race, based on their religion. So it's really shameful, and I think it's really dangerous, and I hope that it's kind of easy. I hope the Democrats do both. It's easy to dunk on Trump, dunk on him, make fun of him. I'm all for it. But I hope that they drive home that message, because I think that's a good political message too. I don't think my old people, those Nikki Haley folks, they're not anarchists. Okay. Like they right. Some of them might be able to hold their nose above for Trump because of whatever, Israel or economic policy or whatever their main issue is. But they don't want to turn the whole system down because one guy's having a temper tantrum.
There's not a whole lot of overlap between Wall Street Journal readers and people who want to burn the government down.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like they've got mutual funds, all right. They got returns. They got college funds that they got college they got to pay for. So anyway, I think that it's a good political message in addition to being really, really disgusting.
And let's finish off with this, and I want you to walk us through a little bit of what you guys are going to do as the result of this at the Bulwark. As a reminder for folks watching right now, Tim is on the Bulwark throughout the week. That's his YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Please make sure to subscribe to support this ecosystem left to right as we continue to build it up. So what's going to be your takeaway here with regard to this conviction?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a lot, and we have, like you do, George Conway has come on to the Bulwark YouTube feed. He's been talking about the legal side of this. He's pretty convinced there's going to be actual jail time here. We're bringing on Adam Kinzinger, former congressman who voted to impeach Republican congressman, who's going to be on the feed a lot this week too. In the coming weeks, he's going to be on for this election cycle. And to us, look, I think that we have an ability to speak clearly to people about the nature of the threat without having to worry about, doing this thing AP style, doing the same, having to play it down the middle and be reporting. I mean, I think that we can really raise the salience on just how outrageous it is, because we have the credibility, since we came from the right, to say, look, we share some of your views about various ideological issues, but we know the difference between right and wrong. We respect the American justice system. Part of the reason why we're Republicans in the first place, because we think that America has a good system that we should be protecting and defending, not tearing down, right? And so I think that is a message that we're going to continue to carry. And I think that we're going to continue to hold these Republicans' feet to the fire. The family fight, we can do it as good as anybody, since, the family feuds are a little bit more intense. And so I think that's going to be our main focus. And then, a lot of my colleagues are doing the Republican Voters Against Trump project. My colleague Sarah Longwell runs that. And I think that is trying to figure out, they're going to go out with the focus groups and go out and talk to people, regular people that voted for Trump, and find voters that voted for Trump to put in their own words what pisses them off about this, because it's important to have those messengers are going to be more credible at the key voters, like finding people, who speak like regular Americans, talking about why they're upset with it, rather than, having it be kind of pundit class talking points, which sometimes a lot of these swing voters tune out because just like wah wah wah, So those are kind of the main efforts that we're going to be looking at over the next few weeks.
Well, look, I think that's especially important because, as you alluded to, I mean, you guys are Republicans, former Republicans, independents. It's going to be a lot easier for you to make that pitch to these disaffected Republican voters or former Republican voters, former Trump voters even, than it will for someone like me, you know, a communist Marxist Democrat, a radical leftist to make that in WeHo to make that exact case. So you know, that's why I'm pushing so hard to make sure that folks who are watching right now, if you want to build up good media sources, good media outlets, the Bulwark is exactly that, and it will help give that permission structure to those Republicans, former Republicans, to make sure to get out and, you know, not just not vote for Donald Trump, but not sit on the couch on November 5th, which is equally as important. So with that said, again, please make sure to subscribe to the Bulwark. Links right here on the screen. It's also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Tim Miller.
This is Inside the Right.